Good morning, everybody. It's an honor to be here and to have been invited once again to speak both to Rebbe Menachem and to the various schools around the world. I want to begin with a personal story. As you here at Rebbe Menachem know that I like to share personal stories. So I want to share a personal story that just happened to me a couple of weeks ago. A few weeks ago, and you have to halt up for the story a little bit. A few weeks ago, I had a test, a medical test. When you turn a certain age in this world, they want to do certain tests on you. This particular test is a thing called a colonoscopy. Now, I don't really want to know what this is about, but it is pretty interesting. And along the way, before you can have your colonoscopy actually done, they need an empty stomach because they want to check inside the stomach to make sure everything is Baruch Hashem okay. So the day before the colonoscopy, they give you this gigantic jug and they put some powder inside. And they tell you to fill this jug filled with water, and then every 15 minutes to drink a glass out of this jug. It's like more than a gallon. Every 15 minutes. The goal is to get your stomach completely and totally empty so that when they come to do the test, they can do the test properly. The day of the test, they tell you, don't drink any water at all. So I did. I followed the instructions. My stomach was empty. I drank this gigantic jug. The next day I didn't drink any water. And I come to actually have the test done. When I come to the place where the test is going to be done, this place, all they do is such tests. So all day long they're doing colonoscopies. That's all they do all day long. Now before they can do your test, because it's sort of like a surgical procedure, they have to do an IV. And hopefully none of you have ever had an IV before, so you don't need to know what that is. But basically, they stick a thing into your veins so that they can give you fluids and various medicines that they're going to need for the test. Well, they couldn't catch any of my veins. They were trying to catch a vein. They were poking holes up and down my arms, trying to catch one of my veins, and they couldn't catch one. So the nurse looks at me and she says, you actually have very, very good veins. And we shouldn't have had such a hard time. But the reason we're having a hard time starting your IV is because you're dehydrated. Dehydrated means when I was emptying my stomach, I lost all the fluids in my body. So there isn't enough fluids. And when a person becomes dehydrated, your veins hide inside your skin. Finally, they found the vein, and they got it started, and they did the test. Before the test actually started, but that's not really what I want to talk about, the doctor came in, and he said, okay, I'm going to do this test on you. Do you have any questions? So I said, yes, I have one question. He said, what's your question? What was my question?
Jewish.
I already knew he was Jewish. So what was my question? Did you put on tefillin today? So he looks at me and he goes, what? I said, yeah, did you put on tefillin today? He said, why, you have tefillin here? I said, Chabad never goes anywhere without his tefillin. I have it right here underneath my bed. That they were rolling me around and the tefillin is right there. He says, let's talk after the procedure. After the procedure was done, Baruch Hashem, he came in to talk to me and he said, oh, here's that. I don't want to talk to you now. I want you to put on tefillin first. So we put on tefillin, Baruch Hashem, for the first time in his life, actually. But here's what I really wanted to share with you. After the test, I was wondering to myself, how come they couldn't find a vein? If they do 15 of these every single day, then probably everybody that comes in is dehydrated. If everybody did the same thing as I did, they should all be dehydrated. So they should have this problem with every patient that comes in. You understand my question? How come it only happened to me? And I was wondering about this afterwards, and I had a theory. Why is it that it only happened to me? And I was talking to a doctor friend of mine afterwards, and I asked him this question. I said, I don't understand. How come I was the only one who's dehydrated? How come they had such a hard time finding a vein? You know what he said to me? Anybody want to guess what he answered? Go ahead, Ariel.
You followed the instructions.
That's not fair, Ariel. You were Shabbos and Shul. I followed the instructions. It turns out, the doctor tells me, that gigantic jug that you fill up with water and mix with the powder and you're supposed to drink, that's supposed to empty your stomach, they really only need you to drink half of it. They tell you you must drink the whole thing. But what they really only need is for you to drink half. So why did they make the jug so big? What's the reason? Because they know that most people are not going to drink the whole thing. So they make it twice as big as they need to, expecting that people halfway through drinking the jug are going to stop. They're going to go, forget it, I can't do this anymore. Oh no, forget about it. And they don't drink the whole thing. And since the doctors are expecting everybody to do that, so that's why they make the drink twice as large. Along comes one dummy, and he drinks the whole thing. Probably the first guy that drank the whole thing in the last 5 years. So I walk in there, and they even asked me, did you drink anything today? Like they were punishing me. How come I didn't drink anything? I said, what do you mean? The instructions say don't drink anything. So it turns out that we're living in a world today that tends not to follow instructions. You give people instructions, they don't listen. Every once in a while, you get an instruction, you actually listen to it. And when you're that one person who takes that once in a while opportunity and actually listens to instructions, everyone looks at you in awe and goes, wow, you actually followed the instructions? You actually listen to what you're supposed to do? You know, it's like when you're walking down the hall in school and there's a big sign on something. And the sign says, do not touch. What's the first thing you're going to do? Of course. Because that's our natural reaction. When it says do not touch, you have to touch it. When they give you a big jug of something to drink, automatically, I'm not going to drink the whole thing. No way. Now, why did I tell you this story? The reason I tell you the story is because we're making Hachana to Yud Ale Nissan. And we have to think to ourselves, what is the most amazing birthday present we could give the Rebbe? There's no greater birthday present we can give the Rebbe than following instructions. The Rebbe has made life very, very simple for us. The Rebbe has laid out for us, in no uncertain terms, that this is the Deir Achar Shel Golus, the Deir Rishon Shel Geula. We are at the end of times, and that it is in our hands. The Rebbe gave uns in the hand, gave it over into our hands, and says to us every single day, "Tut alles was you can, do everything you can." How is it possible if the Rebbe said that in Tafshin Nun Alef, that all those years have passed in Tafshin Nun Alef? Here we are, Tafshin Ayin Hey, rapidly closing in on Chav Ches Nisan again, and Adayin Lo Ba. Mashiach hasn't come yet. How is it possible? So the answer is, we have a problem following instructions. The Rebbe gives us instructions, and we think to ourselves, you can get the same thing done with only drinking half the bottle. There's no need to drink the whole bottle. Drink half the bottle, you're going to be okay. So that has to change. So in order to understand what it is that we need to do to change, I thought maybe we'd talk about the Rebbe's next Tillim for this Yud Ale Nissan Kuf Yud Dalet. Besides coming up on Pesach and it's Yud Ale Nissan, and the Rebbe's new Tillim is Kuf Yud Dalet, it's worthwhile to put all of that together. So there's a Maimer in Likutei Torah, where the Alter Rebbe in Likutei Torah talks on two psukim in this Tillim Kuf Yud Dalet. And the Alter Rebbe asks a simple question. If David HaMelech says, Hayom Rav Hayonos, the sea saw and ran away. Hayarden Yisrael La'achar, the Jordan drew itself back. But Haharim Raktu Che'elim, the mountains danced like rams. So the Alter Rebbe asks the question, how come the mountains were dancing? And how come the sea got so afraid that it ran away? Simple question. Why was there a different reaction to the mountains, a different reaction to the sea? Briefly, so that you'll be able to follow it. The Alter Rebbe says there in the Maimer that the difference between the mountains and the sea is that the mountains are a place of very great height. So that what that means is it's talking about a place where there's great spiritual revelation. Specifically, Alter Rebbe says it's talking about the Midas of Atzilus. So when the Midas of Atzilus, which are already in such a great state of illumination, already lit up, when the Midas of Atzilus suddenly see a greater revelation, like the revelation of Kriyas Yamsuf, Hashem reveals himself. So they become very excited. The Midas of Atzilus get excited. They raise themselves up. And it says, they start to dance. Not just dance, but it's what's the difference between dancing and walking? The Alter Rebbe says, and the Rebbe says this in the Maimer Basalagani this year, the difference is that walking is a slow progression. You get from one place to the next. You start somewhere, you take step by step by step by step, and you achieve the goals that you're looking to achieve. Dancing is dilugu kvitza, large jumps. You go from one place to the next, jump on a table, jump off the table, etc., etc. It's huge, huge jumps, much greater revelations. So the Alter Rebbe says that Ha'adam Raktu Che'elim means that the Midas of Atzilus experience a light. What is Hayom Rav Ayonos? Hayom Rav Ayonos speaks about Malchus, the lowest level of Atzilus. What is the lowest level of Atzilus? That is where everything gets covered up so that we can exist. When we look around at the world around us, we know the chairs, the tables, the bookcases, etc., are all revelations of Hashem. But when we think about it, we don't see those revelations of Hashem. Is that good news or bad news? What's the answer? The answer is it is both. That's a good rule you should learn, by the way, when you're going to learn Chassidus. Every question, no matter what the question is, if you're ever given a choice, is it this or that? The answer always is both. It's always both. It's bad news because we can't see Hashem. It's good news because through that we're able to come closer to Hashem. So the Alter Rebbe says an interesting thing. The Alter Rebbe says you have to have first the Hayom Rav Ayonos before you can have the Ha'adim Raktu Che'elim. Meaning, you have to first experience darkness if you want to be able to experience intense light. If you never experience darkness, you can never experience really intense light. And that's the message of B'teis Yisrael Mitzvah. Now, what does this mean to us practically? Hopefully you were able to follow that mimer. What it means to us practically is this. Most of us look at ourselves and ask ourselves the question, you know what? It's a really good question. The Rebbe spoke Tafshinun Alef, Chav Ches Nissan. Today we're standing Hey Nissan, Tafshin Ayin Hey. How could it be Mashiach is not here? And there's a part of us that thinks to ourselves, Chas v'sholom, you know what? How long can we keep talking about this? Maybe we should get over ourselves and move on. Look at the challenges that there are around us. Every single one of you sitting in this room, right, never met the Rebbe physically. How are you supposed to be able to grow up as Chassidish Yabachim? How are you supposed to be able to be mekusharim to the Rebbe, completely and totally devoted, if you've never had a chance to actually walk up to the Rebbe and get $1? How are you supposed to be able to do that? So this year, in Mizmor Kuf Yud Daled, the Rebbe gives you the instructions. The Rebbe says that on the contrary, those of us that have already experienced the light, those of us that are on the mountains, that dance when we see revelations of light, that's not good enough. There first has to be the Hayom Rav Ayonos. There has to be an experience of the darkness, and only through the darkness and only through experiencing that can you actually raise yourselves up to the highest levels of light. So here's the message. Yud Ale Nissan is coming. the Rebbe wants you to finish the job. The Rebbe wants you to finish the job first inside this building and then extend beyond this building. The Rebbe asks every single one of you to be the person that's going to actually bring Mashiach. Give him the ultimate birthday present. Do you have shmona matzah? Do you have neighbors who don't have shmona matzah? Make sure that they get. Do you live in a city or in a community that everybody around you is a Lubavitcher? Go on Mivtzoyim. Think of somebody your father does business with, somebody a long lost cousin, that's worth the effort of going to see them to make sure that they have shmona matzah. Find another yid and make sure that he's putting on tefillin. Almost everybody here is bar mitzvah age. Find another yid to make sure he's putting on tefillin. You bump into people all over the place, in the streets, in the markets. Yesterday I went to Costco. I had to go to Costco yesterday, so I always take my tefillin with me. You think it's you got to schlep stuff at Costco. It's not so simple. So the tefillin gets in the way. But no, when the Rebbe is a chassid, you always have tefillin. So I bumped into somebody I know who has heard some of my wacky stories. And he was there at Costco. So we bumped into each other. He says to me, "Where's the regular matzah? I only saw shmura matzah. I didn't see regular matzah." I said, "Okay, I'll go find you the regular matzah." But in the meantime, and before I get a chance to get it out of my mouth, he says to me, "Rabbi, you have tefillin with you?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, right there in the middle of the market, middle of Costco." Why? Because he already knew that I was going to ask him, so he beat me to it. And he asked me, "Do I have my tefillin with me?" So I can put on tefillin with me. That's what has to happen. You have to become focused. You know when you do those 8th grade sales, when you make a barbecue or whatever other project you're doing, what happens when you do such a project? You walk around school all day long asking people, "Did you sign up for the barbecue yet? Did you buy this? Did you do it?" Everybody you meet. Or you do a learn-a-thon, all of a sudden every person you bump into, your uncle, your aunt, your baba, your great cousin's pet cat, and you ask them, "Could you please sign up? Please sign up." Why? Because this is a project that's so important to you that you're absolutely focused. And you know that there's nothing else other than that that's going to work. You're going to have to do this. Mashiach has to become that. Your iskashis to the Rebbe is nothing less than absolutely bringing Mashiach. When I was growing up, it was like that also, but not with the kind of focus that happens after Chav Ches Nissan Tafshin and Alef. Our Mashpiyim talked to us about learning Chitas, which is of course important. Eventually Rambam, Davening Ba'avoida, all important stuff. But the Rebbe has empowered you that your iskashus to the Rebbe is exclusively with one focus and one focus only. To bring Mashiach yet. So I invite you to join in the focus. Jump on it, every single one of you. Make sure that every person you know is engaged, involved, but first you have to be engaged yourself. And the Eibishter will help, we'll be able to give the Rebbe the most precious gift we possibly can. We'll merit to be standing at the Beis HaMikdash Shlishi. Each one of us will walk up with a duch. How many people we put on tefillin with? How many people we give shmona matzah to? How much Tanya we learned about that? And the Rebbe will know that we did it as a hachana to this galus of Melech Mashiach. May it happen this very, very second. Amen. Amen. Thank you very much for your time. Akasha Freil. Huh?
Or you can share. Another story. Like,
you want me to take more time?
The telemarketer one in India.
You want me to take more time? I can take more time. We have more stories.
I don't know if they heard it or not.
Yes.
But it's on. At least, I don't know if you told us.
Okay.
Stop at 11.
What?
Stop at 11.
At 11? Okay.
At 11:05.
So it's Yud Ale Nissan. Okay, fine. Which story should we tell?
Telemarketing one.
Okay. They all heard the story.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Tell a different story. Oh, you guys keep track. Okay. A year ago, almost a year ago, yeah. Almost a year ago, I got a phone call. By the way, as a PS to this story. Almost a year ago, I got a phone call from a telemarketer. People are calling all the time. They call you on your phone to drive you crazy. So one day, I answer the phone, and there's a guy on the other end of the phone, and he says to me, hi, I'm doing something else at the same time, trying to blow him off. He says to me, listen, you have a small business? I said, yes, it's a small business. I wish it was a big business, but I have a small business. He says, in your small business, you buy stuff every day? Yes, I can sell you those supplies for much cheaper. So I tell him, really? He says, yeah. I said, okay, if you can sell me the supplies I buy every day for much cheaper, I'll buy from you. Do you have a website? He says, yes. I said, okay, send me a link to your website. I'll take a look. He says, when can I call you back? I said, in a week. A week later, he calls me back. We're talking on the phone again. I usually just hang up on telemarketers. I have no idea why I'm talking to this guy. And he says to me, did you see my website? I said, no. He said, did you get to my email? I said, no. He said, maybe it went in your spam box. I said, okay, let me check. I check in the spam box, it's there. He says, let me send it to you again. I said, okay, send it to me again. He says, when can I call you back? I said, call me back in a week. He calls me back in a week. I get him again on the phone. He says, did you do anything with my email? I said, I have to send it over to my purchasing department. We're running a big business. There's a purchasing department. The purchasing department is run by my 5-year-old who's now in pre-1A. He's the director of the purchasing department. Thank God none of my credit cards are online, because otherwise he would be really involved in the purchasing department, buying things all the time. Actually, when my son Levi was 3, a kid came for bar mitzvah lessons. Mishugoyim, I don't know why parents allow their kids to have phones. Especially, I don't know why they allow them to have phones that have games on them. I especially don't understand why they allow them to have phones with games on them with their own credit cards plugged in. So this kid, 12 and a half years old, is sitting in my shul. I'm going over his bar mitzvah lessons, and he hands my son Levi, the 3-year-old, his phone. So Levi, 3 years old, is playing on his games on the phone. 3 now, he's 5 Baruch Hecht. Playing on the phone. All of a sudden, the kid picks up his phone. He looks at it, he goes, oh my gosh, Levi, you just spent $100 on my father's credit card. So I have to go to the purchasing department. I tell him, you're going to have to call me back. And we go on like this for weeks after weeks after weeks. He keeps calling me back, and I keep blowing him off. After about 2 months of this game, one day he gets me on the phone, and it's dafka morning when I decided this is it. I'm going to get stuff done today. I made a long list of things I wanted to get done today. So I'm going to clean up my mess, etc. And the phone rings. I see it's him in the caller ID. I said, perfect. I'm going to finish off with this guy once and for all. So I pick up the phone. His name is James, with a thick British accent. He says, Rabbi. I say, James. He says, how have you been? I said, I'm fine. Thank God. James, today is your day. He said, what do you mean today is my day? I said, today is the day that I either buy something from you, or today is the day I'm going to tell you, please forget my phone number, because I don't ever talk to you again. Leave me alone. He says, okay, what is it going to take? I said, name a product. He says, toner. Do you buy toner for your printer? I said, yes, I do buy toner for my printer. You got a good product there. He says, do you happen to know the model of your printer? I said, yes, I do know the model of my printer. He says, do you know the what kind of cartridges you get? I said, yes, I know what kind of cartridges I get. He said, do you know how much you pay for those cartridges? This happens to be the only thing in my entire Chabad house that I actually know. Everything else is chaos. This happens to be the one thing I know. So I said, yes. I paid for a bundle of 4 cartridges out the door with shipping and tax, $97 for the 4 cartridges. So he says, I said, how much is yours? Quiet. James. I said, how much is yours? He says, the best price we can do is $160. So he says to me, you do understand that the product you're buying for $97 is made in China. So I said to him, what, am I a racist? I have nothing against the Chinese. What does that bother me? Chinese products are fine by me. And then I said to him, tell me, your product is not made in China. So he said, yeah, but ours is made to American specs. I said, that's funny. That's what they said too. I said, listen, I'll tell you what. I'm going to make a deal with you, I said to him. I will buy your cartridges for $160 because you spent the last 9 weeks chasing me. We've been going back and forth. I will splurge for the $161 time. If your cartridges turn out to be twice as good as the ones I use, in other words, they last twice as long, then I know I'm saving money. I'll buy more from you. If not, you're gone. One shot. He says, thank you. Thank you, that's all I want. I said, great. He says, can I take your order now? I said, yeah, but I have one question before I take your order. Before I give you my order. He says, what's that? I said, are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? British accent, his name is James. He so didn't sound Jewish, but I felt like after 9 weeks of talking to this guy back and forth, I have to at least ask. He says, partially. I said, which part, your nose or your ears? He says, no. My mom's mom is Jewish. So I said, that means you're Jewish. Did you ever have a bar mitzvah? No. Great. Where are you located? He says, Canoga Park, which is here in Southern California in the Valley. I said, Canoga Park? Perfect. Give me your address. He said, why do you want my address? I hear him getting nervous. I said, I'm getting in a car right now. I'm coming to your office at Canoga Park. We're going to make a bar mitzvah for you. And make you a bar mitzvah. He said, I can't do that. I said, why not? He said, I have a non-Jewish girlfriend. I said, so what? So what? I said, does she ask you for permission before she practices her religion? Why do you need to ask her for permission before you practice yours? Come, we'll put in the tefillin. Stop wasting time on the phone, I said to him. Give me your address because I need to come and put on tefillin with you. You're going to have a bar mitzvah. He says, I have to think about it. I have to ask my boss. I said, your boss? Why do you have to ask your boss? Do you get a lunch hour? He said, yes. Tell me what time your lunch hour is. I'm bringing lunch. Bring a kosher lunch. You'll have food to eat. You'll have everything you need. He says, okay, fine. I have to think about it. Can I get back to you? I said, yes, you can get back to me. He said, you want to place that order now? I said, no. No. So he says, what do you mean? No tefillin, no toner? No tefillin, no toner? So I said, don't look at it that way. That's a wrong way of looking at it. I said, the way to look at it is, let's be honest between the two of us. You're a telemarketer, I'm a telemarketer. We've spent the last 9 weeks talking to each other on the phone. You knew I was blowing you off. Why? Because you're a telemarketer. You know what it sounds like to get blown off. I'm a telemarketer. I know what it feels like to get blown off. So after the third time somebody blows you off, you usually forget about him. For some crazy reason, you kept calling me back. And for some even crazier reason, I kept taking your call. I should have told you a long, long time ago, listen, mister, forget my phone number. Stop calling me. I don't want your stuff. But instead, I spent the last 9 weeks talking to you back and forth. Why? Why? For toner? No. No. It's because God put you and me in the same place so that we can share this moment so that I can put on tefillin with you. So you think about that, and then we can talk further. So he tells me, okay, I'll get back to you. I said, before you hang up, is your grandmother still alive? He says, yes. Where does she live? England. Is she still all there? She have all her marbles? He says, yes, she's very sharp. I said, listen to me, I want you to do me a favor. Instead of calling your girlfriend to ask her for permission, whether you can put on tefillin, I want you to call your grandmother, your Jewish grandmother, tell her you spoke to me on the phone, tell her about our conversation. When you see how your grandmother reacts, you'll agree to the bar mitzvah. We hang up. 2 days later, he calls me back. I see his number, answer the phone. James! Now, by the way, it's Machal practice because I'm never in the office, so I never answer the phone. So unbelievable that I caught it, that this guy keeps catching me on the phone because I'm never there. James! Yeah? Okay, where are we holding? So he says to me, I said, did you call your grandmother? He says, no. So why not? He said, I called my mother instead. I said, and? He said, Rabbi, this is no longer about toner. Now this is about a bar mitzvah. My mother was so excited. She heard I'm going to have a bar mitzvah. It's absolutely fantastic. I said, great. Now give me your address in Canoga Park. I'm coming right now to put on the phone with you. He says, well, Rabbi, it's not so simple. So why is it not so simple? Our office is not really in Canoga Park. I said, it isn't? He says, no, that's what we tell all our customers that we're in Canoga Park because we wanted to sound more prestigious. Well, where is your office? My office is in Manila. For those of you who don't know where Manila is, that's not an envelope. That's in the Philippines. Philippines is very far away. Even though you might not know that, because when you walk around the streets of Los Angeles, there's all kinds of people from the Philippines. So you might think it's around the corner. It's very far away. In Southeast Asia. So I said to him, wow, you're calling me from the Philippines? Yes. All these times you called me from the Philippines? He says, yes. So I said, well, he says, Rabbi, I have only 2 questions. How much is this going to cost? And can you bar mitzvah me via Skype? Can we do this over Skype? So I said I could bar mitzvah you over Skype. There's only one problem. He said, what? You got to put on the tefillin. You have to put on tefillin. He says, what are those? I still don't know what you're talking about. So I asked him, do you know how to get to my website? He said, what are you talking about? I've read every page on your website trying to figure out what to sell you. So I said, okay, go to my website, type in tefillin, do the search. We open up the screen together, and I show him the boxes. That's tefillin. You have to put those on. He says, well, how am I going to get them? I said to him, James, you don't know who you started up with. Give me 20 minutes. So what are you going to do? I said, we have a guy in the Philippines. He's going to come and put on the tefillin with you. So he says to me, wait, don't call him now. So why not? He says, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, you call me at 4 o'clock in the morning every single time? He says, yeah, I do the night shift. My job is the night shift. So I do 4 o'clock in the morning all the time. I said, okay, we'll have to wait. So I send the Shliach in the Philippines an email, and I leave a message on his American number of voicemail. I tell him I have this incredible story, opportunity. Please call me back. To make a long story short, 5 days later, we had his bar mitzvah. It was 12 o'clock noon Philippine time on Monday, which was 9 o'clock at night Los Angeles time. We hooked it up via Skype on our big screen in our Chabad house where we watch videos of the Rebbe. And we hooked it up on the big screen. And we were on our side in Los Angeles. He was on his side in the Philippines. A minyan got together in both places. 12 o'clock in the middle of the day, the Shliach of the Philippines gathered together 10 men. So not only did he put on tefillin, but he got an aliyah. And it was so funny because he has no Jewish name. So they're calling him up for the aliyah. And the Shliach of the Philippines turns around to the camera to look at me through the Skype, and he goes, Malik Rolo, what name should we give? How should we call him up to the Torah? So I said, call him Yankel. Why not? Yankel sounds like a good name. So the Shliach turns around, Yankel ben Avram, and gives him an aliyah. We danced simultaneously Mazel Tov on our side and on that side. And there was refreshments and celebration. And a Yid on the other end of the world put on tefillin for the first time because I was paying attention on this side to his telephone calls. P.S. This is part you don't know. He sold me toner. He called me at the end of the bar mitzvah. He made a speech on the camera, how this is the most important day of his life, etc., etc., etc. And then he looked into the camera and he said, Rabbi, I'm going to call you in 2 days to sell you toner. Anyway, he sold me toner 2 days later. I bought a bundle of toner from him. Garbage. The same junk. The one I get is better, maybe the same, I don't know. So I thought to myself, oh, what am I going to do when he calls me back? What am I going to do when he calls me back? I'm going to tell him, look, I'm not buying for your toner anymore because it's twice the price and it's the same junk. 3 months pass, 4 months pass. One day my phone rings, precisely the same time, 11 a.m. I pick up the phone. This time the guy at the other end of the phone sounded completely and totally African American. And I say to him, who are you? He says, I work for this and this company. I said, why are you calling me? He says, James has left the company. Gone. I'm your new account executive. So I'm calling to sell you toner. So I said to him, Reb Goy, I don't think so. He says, why not? I said, because you can't beat my price. So he says to me, then why did you buy it from James? You won't buy it from me, why did you buy it from James? I said, because when I bought it from James, I made a bar mitzvah. Do you want a bar mitzvah? He says, I'll have a bar mitzvah. I said, nah, I think there's a prerequisite that's too painful. It's not going to work. This is not going to work. And so James' whole tenure at this company, with all of his phone calls to me, et cetera, was just, you should have a mitzvah. You should put on tefillin one time in his life. Everything else was just a joke. Akosha Freil Chapesach, everybody. Only psudas like this.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Hecht, for the Divri Severus and the Varme Werther. There is Hashem that we should take added strength, added chayas from this gathering, and may each and every one of us, our achlatis together and what we are doing together, give a lot of nachas to the Rebbe, and certainly be those last breaks that will bring about the coming of Mashiach. Take it from the end now. Hashem Feil Pesach to everybody.